Elijah's Easter Suit, written by Brentorn Jackson, illustrated by Emmanuel Bowden. Ooh, that looks cool. Elijah's Easter Suit. On Easter, there are two rules at the Third Avenue Church. Number one, show up, and number two, look good. People come from miles around to strut down the aisle in their new Easter outfits. Reverend White always gives a special Sunday sermon shout out to that one member wearing something so spectacular it makes the congregation rejoice and sing Hallelujah. Last year it was Mother Green. She wore a hat the size of Saturn and 7 rings the colors of the rainbow. The year before that it was Deacon Brown, whose favorite color is red, which he wore from the bottoms of his feet to the top of his head. This year Elijah was determined to be the first kid to get the Reverend's nod and the church's applause. All he had to do was pick the perfect Easter suit. Elijah started his search at the newest department store uptown. It had all the fresh hip styles, but this one was too loose. This one was too tight. And this one just didn't look quite right. Elijah continued his quest at the trendiest thrift store in Midtown. It had all the hard to find one of a kind styles. But this one was for a prince. This one was for a knight. And this one just didn't look quite right. Elijah ended his hunt at the oldest boutique store downtown. It had all the fancy classic styles, but this one was too dark. This one was too bright, and this one just didn't look quite right. Elijah's hopes for the best Easter suit were falling apart at the seams until he saw Deacon Brown and Mother Green outside the church. "What's wrong, Elijah?" asked Deacon Brown. "I've been all over town and I can't find the perfect Easter suit. Now I won't get Reverend White's shout out." Mother Green said, "When I was your age, they wouldn't let us shop in stores around town. So most of the time we had to make our own Easter suits," chimed Deacon Brown. "That's right," said Mother Green. "My parents would take pieces of fabric and make me a beautiful new Easter outfit. I knew where every stitch of cloth came from, and that made it special." "Dressing up on Easter Sunday is not about winning a competition," said Deacon Brown. "It's about remembering our culture and celebrating new beginnings," added Mother Green. Inspired, Elijah hurried home. He found the old blue jeans Dad wore when he tended the garden last summer, Mama's scarf that she wore last fall when Dad's pumpkin won the first place at the fair, the blanket that covered baby sister when she came home from the hospital last spring. Deep in the back of the closet, Elijah found the homemade Easter outfits that generations of ancestors had worn in the past. Each tattered thread sang a song. Elijah opened his heart and listened. With his family's help, he sketched and measured and cut and sewed until he created the perfect Easter suit, a beautiful garment created from things he loved. It wasn't too loose, it wasn't too tight, not meant for a prince, nor fit for a knight. It wasn't too dark, it wasn't too bright, and it looked just right. The next morning, Elijah showed up to the Third Avenue Church looking good. Mother Green smiled, Deacon Brown winked, and Reverend White preached, "Look at Elijah, shining like spring, reminding us to honor sacrifices of the past while we celebrate the new life Easter brings." Elijah strutted down the aisle in his patchwork of perfection, and the congregation shouted, "Hallelujah." Oh, here's a fashion, faith, and freedom note from the author. Easter suit hunting was a tradition my dad and I shared throughout my childhood in Fort Worth, Texas. As soon as spring hatched, we hopped into his car and headed to countless boutiques around town. Each store presented a variety of colorful clothing and conversation. Older men and women shopping alongside us always reminded me to value the special time and tradition. Years later in college, when I stumbled upon a 1941 photograph taken by Russell Lee on Easter Sunday in Chicago, I realized this yearly ritual reached farther and wider than my family and community. African American churchgoers' practice of dressing up on Easter Sunday can be traced back to American slavery. Enslaved people received only the most basic clothing, often handed out at Christmas and Easter. Their yearly clothing consisted of 2 coarse linen shirts, 1 pair of linen trousers, 1 jacket, 1 pair of trousers for winter, 1 pair of stockings, and 1 pair of shoes, the whole of which could not have cost more than $7. That's from Frederick Douglass, from Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, from 1845. Sunday was the only day when dressing up was allowed. Otherwise, laws prohibited them from wearing anything other than slave cloth. The Civil War brought about the end of American slavery in 1865. For formerly enslaved people, wearing new clothes on Easter Sunday became a way of remembering their past, expressing their religious beliefs, and celebrating their new freedom. Gone were the days of coarse linen shirts and trousers. Black American churchgoers now preferred Sunday go to meeting clothes that were brightly colored and often made from fine fabric. But not everyone in America was happy that black people enjoyed the same freedom as whites. In the late 1870s, southern states began creating laws that segregated black people from white people in public space, such as schools, restaurants, and stores. These segregation practices spread across America and became known as Jim Crow laws. Even though these laws barred the black community from shopping in many clothing stores, they found creative ways to overcome this obstacle. Making their own Easter Sunday clothing and adding unique cultural touches, many talented tailors opened shops to ensure the community could always wear their Sunday best on Easter morning. The 1964 Civil Rights Act officially ended Jim Crow laws in America, but this was only after years of activism throughout the country, known as the Civil Rights Movement. The black churchgoer played a pivotal role in this effort. Marches and protests were planned at churches, and so was what to wear. A-line skirts, suits, ties, and hard leather Sunday shoes made up the preferred dress code. Leaders of the movement felt that the clothing of participants was an outer demonstration of the dignity they demanded. Today, fashion, faith, and freedom are still stitched into the fabric of the African American community, and Easter Sunday presents the perfect opportunity to show it off and walk in the cultural tradition of those who came before. And here are the author and the illustrator. Brenton Jackson is a psychotherapist who writes about the universal lessons within Black American culture. His work reflects his hope for the future, where every child can see themselves in the pages of a book. Elijah's Easter Suit is his debut picture book. Brenton lives in Texas with his wife and son, and you can follow him. That's his Instagram and Twitter accounts. And Emmanuel G. Boateng is a Ghanaian self-taught digital artist. He was born and raised in the city of Kumasi in the Ashanti region. See more of his work on his Instagram. So you can go and check both of them out if you want to see more of what they've done.